Hi, I'm Dr. Richard Bulzachelli, lecturer in theology for Catholic Studies Academy. In this short video, I'd like to ask what may seem a sort of odd question. Is there a difference between believing in God and having faith? You might be inclined to say that there's no difference at all, that these are just two different ways of saying the same thing. But I would say that there is a difference, and it's a rather important one. See, a person can believe in God for purely philosophical reasons. A person can believe that God exists. Now, take for example the idea of a necessary being that accounts for the things in the world that you and I experience. All the things in the world that you and I experience, and the world itself, the universe, is contingent. It could be, it could not be. It didn't have to be. It does exist, but it didn't always exist, and it need not exist, right? It has its being not through itself, but through another, not necessarily, but contingently. And contingency can't account for itself. So while other contingent things, like my parents, might constitute part of the explanation of my existence, they might account to some degree for my existence. They don't account completely for my existence, because something has to account for them, and for them, and for them, until finally we've exhausted all contingent being and have to reach outside the realm of contingency for an explanation, to necessary being. Only that which is necessary, which exists in and of itself, that doesn't come to be or pass away, that isn't caused by something else, but is in itself the font of being and the cause of everything other than itself. That necessary being is the only thing that ultimately can explain the contingent things in our world. Is that God? Well, not yet, not quite. But if I'm a rational person, I already know, I think, that necessary being exists. There's no way around it as far as I can tell. If there's contingency, and certainly there is, then there must be necessity. But for necessity to be God, for necessary being to be God, the way you and I normally think about God, I would have to say that necessary being is rational and has some element of will. I think we can get there. I think we would say that rationality is a positive perfection of being that we find among contingent things. Bears don't have it. Bears don't think about the origins of things, the causes of things, the meaning and purpose and value of things in the world. Neither do orangutans or gorillas or dolphins. Human beings do. We have a positive perfection of being that we find absent in other things in the world. This must be one of the things for which necessary being must account. And so with what we would describe as free will, that ability we have to determine our own course, not to be led this way or that by our instincts or by sense perception, but to choose the way to go. This too we experience as a positive mode of being that we find absent in other things, and for which necessary being must provide an account. See, if necessary being provides the account of contingent things, and these are elements of contingent reality, then one would think that such perfections must pre-exist in some more perfect way in their cause, at least in their ultimate cause. And that ultimate cause is necessary being. Therefore, in necessary being, there must be intelligence and will, in some way more excellent than the way in which we find it in ourselves. But it must be present there. And if it is, then God exists. Necessary being is conscious, intelligent, willful. Necessary being is God. Now that's a philosophical argument, in my view a fairly strong one, a philosophical argument that can reasonably find rational assent. I could say in the face of such an argument that I believe that such a being exists. I believe in God. But if I were to ask the question, well, where do I stand with this thing? With this being, with this necessary being that thinks and wills? Where do I stand with God? Does God care about me? Does he think about me? Does he desire to share his life with me? Is he concerned about what becomes of me? Does he know me? And a person might say, well, I don't know, maybe, maybe not. Probably not. Many philosophers thought God never gave a second thought to human beings, to the world. Why would he? He's eternal. We didn't exist to be thought until we existed because of him. And he's perfect being in himself. We're not. We're contingent. We only partially exist through another. He exists perfectly and eternally. What else is there for him to think about but himself? Why would he ever think about us? But in faith, I know that God thinks about me. I know that he wills me into being. Consciously, he thinks and wills that which is other than himself. It's hard to know exactly how he does it, but I know by faith that he does it. I know that he cares about me, that he desires to share his life with me. He knows me and calls me by name. I know this because over a long history, God has reached out to human beings through the prophets and through Scripture, and ultimately and definitively in the person of Jesus Christ. And he's told me where I stand with him, where we stand with him, what he wants for us and from us, what he thinks of us. I believe God's self-revelation. I believe what he's told us in these various ways. I believe God. That's what it means to have faith.